Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So, Virgin Islands Attorney General Denise George is going hard when it comes to her prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein's estate. She has amended the complaint against the estate to include one of his companies called Southern Trust and named them as a co-defendant in the case. George told the Miami Herald that she believes that Southern Trust was a front used to hide Epstein's illegal activities in the Virgin Islands. And it would appear that way, and I'll explain why in a minute, but he used and exploited tax loopholes while committing these alleged crimes on the island in the Virgin Islands. Southern Trust was given a 90% income tax exemption, and the company received a 100% exemption from taxes related to gross receipts, excise, and withholding taxes. What's even more shocking is that Epstein pitched this so-called company to Virgin Islands authorities after his 13-month slap on the wrist with that work release stint in a Florida prison. So they knew what he had been accused of doing. They knew that he did some time for crimes related to sex with minors, and yet they still welcomed his business with open arms and allowed him to essentially pay zero in taxes on any income from that supposed shill corporation. In fact, according to court documents, Southern Trust avoided $73.6 million in payments over just a 4-year period from 2013 to 2017. And Epstein himself was able to avoid another $71.3 million in taxes over that same period of time. So this is just unbelievable. And he pitched the company to these Virgin Islands authorities as a company that would mine DNA for wealthy people and help to keep people healthy and basically make it like a designer drug manufacturing company. But that's not at all what the company did. In fact, they show that the only money he took in for Southern Trust came from people like Leon Black. So wealthy business owners who supposedly were paying him hundreds of millions of dollars for tax advice, which is not at all what he said it was going to be. And so there's this whole other component because one of the managers of Southern Trust is Cecile de Jong. She happens to be the wife of the Virgin Islands former governor. So some people are concerned that George is trying to tie the case to some of the elites and the politicians on the island. But George said, quote, "People can only be liable for evidence that leads to them." But in addition to this amendment, adding Epstein's company to the indictment, George has now also added the executors of Epstein's estate as co-defendants. George alleges that the executors of Epstein's estate, Darren Indyke and Richard Kahn, were, quote, "the indispensable captains of Epstein's criminal enterprise, roles for which they were richly rewarded." She contends that the two men facilitated secret payouts to victims and then also arranged for fake marriages, sometimes even marrying two victims. And they say that this allowed Epstein to maintain more control over the victims and to continue with his sexual abuse of these minors. Another reason she's taking a strong stance against these two men is because she believes that they're hiding and mismanaging funds. So last week, it was announced that the Victims' Compensation Fund would have to freeze payouts due to a lack of money. That's the fund that had been set up to pay claims that were brought by Epstein's alleged victims. But they're saying they don't have enough money to maintain all of the estate expenses and continue paying victims. The two executors blame George. They say that, well, it's her fault because if she would lift the liens on Epstein's properties, we could sell those properties and generate more funds. But she says the men have concealed their accounting practices. They're not being forthcoming about what and how they're spending the money. And large sums of money have been moved out of Epstein's accounts without any reasonable explanation. One perfect example was that shortly after Epstein died, his estate randomly transferred $12 million to this very suspicious bank called Southern Country. The reason this bank is suspicious is because the bank was established by Epstein himself. So why are you transferring money from his estate to this bank right after he dies? And when they were questioned about the transfer, Epstein's attorney said, oh, it was just a mistake. Because, when someone dies, that's the first thing on your mind. Your first order of business is, I better transfer 12 million out of their estate into a bank because they're going to do what with it when they're dead? And especially when that person is or was sitting in prison. That person just died while in custody for very credible claims and allegations that he violated hundreds of children and young women. So yeah, it sounds very shady. Yeah, we'll see how this all plays out. They're just battling right now. So there's no news as to when this amended complaint might make it to court, but I will keep you guys posted. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.